Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Travel Market Report's Master Advisor series. Today is March 6th, 2025, which is pretty crazy. We're this far into 2025 already. Today's topic is how to win personalization. We're going to be speaking with Nolan Flynn, the Director of Industry Engagement with Jetstream today. But I want to make a few announcements first, and I want to introduce our sponsor for today's episode. So just to kick us off, the chat is going to be open on your right as we go along today. Please go ahead, drop as many questions and comments in there as you can. I see so many great ones already coming in. Going to do our best to sort of sprinkle these through the next 45 minutes or so throughout the conversation. So you have questions, you have comments, please drop them in there. Daryl, I believe my volume should be okay, but we'll have Tom, our producer, check in with you and make sure everything is ironed out on your side. Our last episode a couple weeks ago with Angela Hughes was a lot of fun. Angela's been on the show a lot, and we really love having her. That was sort of a special episode. We talked about the uber high net worth client, the type of marketing you can do to reach those people, where you can find them in the market, how they can help you build a successful travel agency, things like that. So a lot of fun. Tom dropped the link to our YouTube page in the chat. If you want to go ahead and check that out, the full episode is on the YouTube. All these past episodes are on our YouTube page. If you have some time, you want to head over there, like and subscribe. That really helps us a lot to continue to grow this channel, continue to grow this community. And it also is a good place to find all this content. We did do an episode, which I've gotten a couple emails about this week, with Tom Carpenter for terms and conditions, which I know continues to be a pretty important topic for travel advisors in the US, in Canada as well. That is on our YouTube page as well. If you want to go check that out there, it's sort of building a terms and conditions sheets, what you need to know, resources, things like that. So if you're interested, go ahead and check that out. And I know the questions that are come in. This episode is going to be available on that channel later today as well. So if you want to rewatch anything from Nolan today, it'll be out there later today. Okay. All right, so with that out of the way, I want to introduce our sponsor for today's episode. We're so happy to have Mandy Wetzel back with us to share a little bit about ALG Vacations, about what's going on there, and to help us kick off the episode today.
Hello, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here today, and thank you, Travel Market Report, for having me. A few updates regarding ALG Vacations, which does include our 6 brands, including Apple Vacations, Travel Impressions, and FunJet Vacations, also including Blue Sky Tours, United Vacations, and Southwest Vacations. So last June, we launched our new product of Luxe by ALG Vacations. Now, the really great thing about this product is that it is, at this point in time, about 520 hotels worldwide. And these are going to be curated hotels that were not selected by us, but selected by the top travelers in the world, coming from reports like 4 and 5 Diamond reports, leading hotels of the world. And they are going to be in destinations across the globe. Just recently, I saw that we added 20 new locations, including areas in Manhattan, Dubai, the Maldives, Seychelles, and New Zealand. So you're going to be able to find this as a global product. The best part about when booking into our Luxe program is going to be our dedicated concierge. And this is a personalized concierge desk for you. Different things that this team can accomplish would be as little as making sure that a dining reservation is confirmed for your clients, as well as securing private excursions. So for instance, let's say your clients are going to Rome and they want a private walking tour of the monuments at night, but you see that there's a public one, but you want them to have a private escort. Give that to our concierge, let them arrange it for you, let them handle all of the confirmations, because 2 weeks before travel, that concierge is going to go back and reconfirm everything that you guys have set up. And then anything that they are able to secure for you, they will add on with commissions as well for you. Let's not work for free as agents. Let's always make sure that you guys are getting compensated for your time. Also included in different customizations ability we have, and for making life easier, is our recent launch of our auto inventory drop under our contracted groups department. So this is upon the time that you're signing your contract, is you can sign up for auto inventory drop to make sure that you or your clients are never getting charged any penalties for excess inventory that you no longer need. You will get constant reminders about this inventory, and you will get confirmation that you're going to drop this inventory, but it will be done on an automated schedule for you, so you don't have to worry about it anymore. In terms of any further updates, you may have noticed that we have done a slight brand refresh for our brands, including Travel Impressions and Blue Sky Tours. All of our marketing materials are free to use and available to you in our free marketing platform of ALGV 360. Thank you all so much for joining, and I can't wait to hear what Nolan has to say.
Yeah, thank you, Mandy. And we covered that brand refresh and travel market report, and I know there's been a lot of great, good, positive feedback on it. So congratulations to you and your team, and it's always nice to hear updates from ALG Vacations. All right, so with that all out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and welcome our guest for today's episode. Really happy to have Nolan Flynn from Jetstream on with us to talk a little bit about personalization, a little bit about artificial intelligence. I know we have a lot to get to, but Nolan, this is your first time with us. I was hoping you could take a couple minutes, maybe introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. So I am the Director of Industry Engagement with Jetstream. We are a host network for experienced travel advisors in the United States. So we're talking about some great topics today. So I'm really excited for it. And hopefully we can have some takeaways for you to, help with your own business and your workflow and your growing travel business. So.
All right. All right. And so if anyone has a question for Nolan, again, I know I mentioned it, but please drop them in the chat. We'll go ahead and grab them as we go along today. But Nolan, I wanted to start off with that center of the topic, which is personalization. I know for you, personalization is sort of something crucial for you, for your members, something we spoke about earlier in the week. I know AI is also trending amongst the industry. It seems like every industry is talking about AI. I was hoping you could tell us a little bit about how those two pieces fit together, how maybe some travel advisors currently using AI to enhance their workflow is sort of working towards that personalization mission.
Sure. Yeah, and I like AI. It's here. It's not going away. But there's certainly some ways to go and utilize the platform to help in terms of just selling travel and providing like services to your clients. So the first thing that I would say we're seeing a lot of members utilize AI for would be like email writing and itinerary creation. In terms of like adding all the fluff in an itinerary that really like helps sell a destination. So whether that's like sending like through chat, like on like say like Chat GPT, like utilizing it for like Rome, Florence, Venice itinerary and giving ideas of where they could visit on each stop. That would be a great example of like maybe jotting those down for an AI bot and then having them deliver like a nice cohesive email for your clients when you deliver like a personalized itinerary or quote. So that'd be the first one would be like writing. I think that's like essential for travel advisors because sometimes it's like you're quoting all these different suppliers all day, planning all these trips, and it's hard to string it all together in like a nice email without word block.
Yeah, it does seem communication. I know for some people, communication is their passion. A lot of my, I guess, day-to-day task is communication,
Yeah.
but for a lot of travel advisors, I know communication is the pain point. And I guess talking to you earlier in the week, Nolan, it seemed pretty obvious that the goal of AI in your mind is to help take away some of those pain points, including maybe communication.
Right, exactly. And I think just being able to use it as a tool to assist you just as like a personal assistant. For example, like maybe a client needs to cancel their trip and they're not too happy about a cancellation policy that you told them about and they were aware of this, but you have to find a way to maybe write an email with more empathy because you're not really sure how to go and like soften something up, but you do have to let them know like, hey, this payment was non-refundable. I'm really sorry about it. Like, how could you expand on that? Maybe asking like an AI bot for assistance writing an email like that to kind of soften the edges on your business flow. I feel
Okay.
like that's something a lot of people don't even think of, you know?
Well, I think you mentioned writer's block, and I know that is. I don't think there's probably a different term for it, but writer like being paralyzed, but not by having to choose what words are appropriate in that situation. I think
Right.
it is amazing what you're talking about ChatGPT, and when I asked you earlier in the week, you mentioned that was sort of a big tool for you and your members was ChatGPT. But it is amazing, like the stuff it can help you with. Something as simple as that, something as choosing the right word, like you mentioned, in order to soften the blow with a client is kind of a big task and something that can really
Right.
lend for. So, all right,
Definitely.
cool. Yeah. So, ChatGPT. Are there any other like I know there's AI tools built into CRMs. Last week or a couple weeks ago, we were talking a little bit about stuff on Travelify or Traveljoy. I spoke to an executive 3 weeks ago at our show in Vancouver about Salesforce's AI and how it's automating sends and things like that. But a lot of the AI you mentioned, it's word choice, things like that. But you also spoke a little bit about, I guess, data organization or data administration,
Yeah.
and AI can help with that. Yeah.
So like with data administration, it sounds like a big word, and it sounds like it's like, well, I'm a travel advisor. What am I doing data administration for? But like you're actually dealing with it all the time. Like, and a really good example would be like groups. So for example, you get like this, you work with ALGV, you get this nice Excel sheet of like all of the rooms you have in a big group. And say some of them have air, some of them don't have air, some of them booked a preferred club room category. And you want to go and give that whole like Excel list to ChatGPT, for example, and say like, hey, okay, I need to send an email out to everybody with air and let them know that the confirmations are in this itinerary, and I need like a nice cohesive email for that. For the people that don't have air, I need XYZ. And then you could say, can you take from this like Excel list that I have and tell me who I need to email for all these, and can you like tailor each email for each reservation that you see in that grid? Like giving ChatGPT like, or like any AI bot, the data to start with and say like, hey, take this and build off of it. This is what I need from it. Like give it like a starting point of like a source of data, and then that'll help you with all this like manual task work that you see advisors kind of like eating away a lot of their time when it comes to things like groups, which should be really easy, you know, like if you just like avoided the writer's block, avoided the having to write like a customized email without it sounding too robotic. And the biggest thing I think with AI is like, if you don't like what is presented to you, tell the chatbot that. Like, make it tailored to your business. Like if you don't say words like Azure, like they were using that as like an adjective, like in ChatGPT. I'm like, I've never said that word in my life aside from here on this call. But like like saying like, hey, I don't use that word, or hey, I don't really want to sound like that, or hey, I want to kind of soften this up, or hey, I want to sound more approachable. Like telling like a chatbot those kind of details, you're going to get better results out of it, and then you're going to find that even utilizing AI is going to take less time out of your day.
Yeah. So I know personalization is key for a lot of owners, a lot of agents, and it does take a lot of time. I know a lot of people pride themselves on it, but it's nice to know that programs like ChatGPT can save you time, but also keep going through that path of personalization. That seems important. But yeah, like you mentioned, I know advisors are using ChatGPT a lot. It's going to cater to whatever you want. The more it gets to know you, the more personalized it's going to be working with you as a one-on-one. Somebody compared it to a personal assistant for me, and I think that's a good comparison, except it doesn't, like you mentioned, you can be, I wouldn't say be mean to it, but you can be as curt to it as possible. You're not going to hurt his feelings like you might hurt an employee's feelings.
Right.
So
And think
if
of
it's
it
not
like,
doing the right thing, yeah.
I would say like, think of it like you want another you selling travel, but maybe not doing the selling part, but dealing with all the data administrative part, you know, or helping you like send out like reminders in terms of like final payments, or reminders saying like, hey, I still don't have your airfare and I have transfers booked for you, like I need XYZ. Like having those like tailored emails ready to go, just I feel like makes it a lot easier. And then the other thing is like social media posts. I mean, there's like endless possibilities with that. Like with ChatGPT, everything, or like with all these AI bots, like when you tell it to write like a custom post for all these things, like it is authentic in that nobody else is using that text. Nobody else is using that social media post. It's not necessarily canned content that you're getting maybe from a supplier. Like it's for you, it's for your agency, it's for whatever you want to go and promote on like a social media platform. So that's what I really like about it, for sure.
Can we talk about that a little bit? Just, I guess, in general, how important is customization or personalization? I guess that's part of your marketing, but as a part of your client outreach as well. It seems like something that clients require now from you. It's not just. It seems like it's something that needs to happen in order for you to keep that relationship, instead of something that's optional anymore. Like clients want that personalized service. It seems like what they're paying now. they expect that they expect to be having this one-on-one relationship, I guess.
Right. If they wanted a transaction, they would buy their travel online. They're not looking for a transaction. They're looking for a relationship with a travel advisor that's got like an invested interest in their trip. So that's why, like, throw away this idea that it's just like you're turning over bookings to Cancun and just booking more and more and more.
Yeah.
Like treat it as such as like, where's your next trip? And make sure that you're, like staying abreast on like what your clients are looking for, like moving forward for different travel. Maybe there's like some sort of like, I don't know, anniversary or graduation trip coming up, like being aware of that and like tailoring just how you work with your client base, I think is really important.
Yeah, and I mentioned we had Angela Hughes on here, and we looked up the price for a pro version of ChatGPT, and it's not, I can't remember how much it was, but it's not cost prohibitive. So it really is an incredible
Right.
tool. I know there's a lot of competitors out there now, and I know AI is going to be a part of every application, it seems like now. But Reginald Davis, I would just go to the website, I think ChatGPT, and just sort of start getting introduced to Nolan, you call it a chatbot. It's probably the right word. It's weird to call it
Yeah.
something else, I guess. Yeah. So, but
Yeah,
it is an incredible tool. Yeah.
yeah, and it's a business expense, like it's part of doing
Yeah.
business, just like everything else, just like paying for a CRM or maybe host agency dues if you have that. Like that's the purpose, it's meant to help you and your business along the way.
Um, what about limitations with it, Nolan? Like, are there any things you won't do with ChatGPT, or any things that you think are inappropriate, or maybe don't make sense for you to do with your business?
Um, I I would say, okay, so with all of AI, the number one thing it wants to do is give you an answer. And sometimes when it gives you an answer, it may not be the correct answer or may not be the most authentic answer. So I think, like, let's just say like a traveler like has a request to go to a destination that you maybe have never been to. And you're like, oh, geez, where do I start? Right. You could start with Google and just, you're going to get all sorts of options there on how to book it, but you want to know how to sell it. Right. So you go into like a chat bot and you ask them, like, hey, like, you know me, I've told you about my business. You've wrote my social media posts. You've helped with all my groups. I have a client that's interested in going to Norway, and they want to go to XYZ. Can you give me an idea of like what they'd be looking to do? Like when they provide a response, I would like just be a little bit of like a detective there and ask like, okay, well, why do you believe that? Like, what why is that the best destination to go to in Norway, like in terms of like seeing the fjords? Like ask questions like that, because like if it stumps you as a travel advisor of not necessarily knowing like how to go and work with that client, it very well could go and stump like an AI bot. And like that's like the difference between like a travel advisor, like I always say, like has genuine intelligence. This is AI, artificial intelligence. Like it's not real, it's a computer. So you got to like find that good mix of like that like authentic like you as a travel advisor, and then like providing that genuine intelligence to like a traveler, but then utilizing these tools where you can, because it can certainly give you like good information. That's not wrong, but like it could also provide like really like just not valid, not true information about destinations, or it could be like entry requirements or visa requirements. Like those are things you should maybe go to the source for,
Yeah. Yeah. So we have a comment from Emily in the chat, and I'll pull it up here. It is, I guess, it's playing a little devil's advocate, just ChatGPT as a personalization tool. And Nolan, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like the point you were making is this allows you the time in order to, it gives you the time, it saves you time you would need to personalize. It makes a more efficient process in order to provide that personalization. Like it makes the
Yeah.
process of personalization easier. Yeah.
And I like Emily, I get it. Like you go and you have you have an AI bot out there, and you just say, "Hey, can you give me a nice email about Rome, Florence, Venice?" Like, yeah, it's gonna provide the most generic response. What I was saying earlier, though, about how like you communicate in a chat and like say ChatGPT, and you say like, "Hi, my name is Emily Griswold, and I work for X agency. I've been doing this for so many years. Most of my clients go to X, like these destinations. they usually fly out of these airports because that's where a lot of my travelers are, but they could be abroad. They're generally more of a Lux client, but here's more about me. I've traveled to X amount of places. Here are the places I've been. Um, I love flying with Delta. You know, all these details. Then when you ask a chatbot something like, "Hey, I need like a great email to go along with my quote for Rome, Florence, and Venice," all of that response will be personalized to you as a travel advisor and you and your business. So that's kind of how I see it. It's like it's going to personalize the responses so they are authentic to you. That'd be the difference, I would say.
One thing I know people use it for as well is if you're one of those people who need to make sure your email is grammatically correct before you send it, you can send it to ChatGPT and it'll proof it for you to make sure there's no grammatical errors, there's no spelling errors, things like that. And I know I spend a lot of time proofing emails and making sure I sound the way I want to sound in emails, and that ChatGPT can sort of provide an extra layer of confidence if that's something you're interested in as well. All right. All right. And then Emily says, I never thought of adding all those details to the prompts. I think the prompts seem to be the biggest thing with ChatGPT. Like the
Yeah.
more you can use it in one browser under one login, the more it's going to get to know you, the more it's going to know what you want out of your relationship with it. And being able to prompt it correctly. I know there's a lot of websites that'll give you examples. And Nolan, I guess you can add into this too, but the prompts seem to be the big thing in order to get what you want out of it.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
just making sure the chatbot knows you from the get-go. So when you start asking questions or asking for all these little requests, it calculates all those things into the responses. So it's like training an employee, you know?
Yeah. All right. Cool. Yeah. Lisa sort of agrees with that too. So once I trained my
There we
ChatGPT,
go.
it's amazing. It actually talks like me now, which is I don't know how disconcerting it is to people, but I think that is an accurate way to say it. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about personalization. Continue on this. We'll move away from the AI for a little bit. But again, if anyone has questions, please drop them in the chat, and we'll grab them as we go along. But Nolan, I want to talk a little bit about sort of expanding destination knowledge, niche markets, mainstream destinations that sort of have been done by clients, and now they're looking for new experiences, new opportunities elsewhere. I'm curious from your point of view, from Jetstream's point of view, what destinations are trending right now, and sort of what are the main motivators behind those destinations picking up popularity?
Yeah, and like a lot of the destinations that are like always trending, I would say they're like the base. Like I don't like using the word mainstream because it makes it sound like it's like not a destination you necessarily need to go to, because places like Jamaica are fantastic, but a lot of people go there and they've been there before, and it isn't necessarily like on their list moving forward. So those common destinations are a great base for like your clients, like, and there's plenty of suppliers that can provide that. But what we're seeing a lot more now is like revenge travel, like kind of involved a lot of people traveling, utilizing every little bit of PTO that they have and time with their friends and family to go to all sorts of places, primarily mainstream, right? Primarily like Cancun, Las Vegas, Orlando, like Rome, Athens, things like that. And like over that time, like since like especially like 2020, like TikTok became really big. Like social media became like a place for inspiration for travelers. And that's where we're seeing a lot of newer destinations. Like I would call it like alternative Europe is kind of coming back in a new way. Like I mentioned Norway earlier, or like Sweden and Norway. Turkey has been really big. Um, Iceland, which I like. I feel like it's a little bit more mainstream where I'm from, like in Chicago, because we have plenty of lift to get there. But a lot of people haven't been there, and it's a fantastic destination. So you're getting a lot of these requests because they're getting all this inspiration on social media platforms such as like Instagram and TikTok, and they're just watching a simple reel, and it looks beautiful. It's like that's the selling point for them to reach out to like these travel advisors to work with them and see like how could they customize that trip. um so, and then the other thing that we're seeing is like this kind of revival of the United States. It's like it's a huge country, right? There's so many places to go to, like from coast to coast, or like even like national parks, and like travelers are seeing that too. They're interested as well because maybe they already traveled abroad, or maybe it's not so easy for like a family member to get on a plane anymore or get on a long flight. So a lot of these like more local destinations have become pretty big. And like we're seeing that for like guided tours, river cruises, and then even those like just so like not solo, but like independent travel trips where it's just FITs. They've got their own itinerary and they know exactly what they're going to do when they get there. So that's what we're seeing right now is really coming into this like resurge of 2025 for travel. It's like these newer destinations that advisors may not have even sold before. That's the biggest thing. A lot of these places they've never even been to before. So that's the I think the big question is like how do you tackle that one, right? Um and
Yeah.
I would say ChatGPT could be a great start, but there's a lot of different ways you could go about like learning about a new destination. I'm
So
sure Travel
I
Market
have a couple.
Reporter also does. Go ahead.
I have a couple questions on that, Nolan.
Yeah.
Sweden, Norway, I'm hearing this from a lot of advisors too. So it's definitely not just it's you. And we're over here. I'm in the East Coast, so it's sort of the same needs and wants. Consumers are changing. I'm curious what your opinion is. So I know last summer was really crazy in Europe. There was a lot of heat, a lot of
Mhm.
crowds, and sort of the more popular destinations. You maybe hinted that they might be the more mainstream destinations. Do you think this push towards alternative Europe is because consumers maybe had a less than ideal experience because of the crowds, because of the heat? Now they're looking for elsewhere, or do you think it's just because they want to go places they haven't been before? They don't want to go back to Italy. They maybe don't want to return to places that they were dreaming about during the pandemic. They've already checked that off. Is it sort of like an all the
Yeah.
above kind of situation? Yeah.
I think it's like a 50-50 situation. You have people that like have maybe they're really well traveled. They've been to these destinations plenty of times. So they're looking for something new also within Europe or also like even like traveling to like the final destinations like Antarctica. But then the other half is like, yeah, fighting the crowds. Like it's busy
Yeah.
everywhere, like especially in like peak season. So how do you avoid that? How do you avoid like long lines at airports? How do you like find that like solitude and like just like peaceful travel? And I think that that's where a lot of these like secondary destinations are becoming really big.
Yeah, I know suppliers are investing in these destinations too. It seems like It seems like the suppliers are also, as advisors try to expand their knowledge, suppliers are trying to get in there as consumers are sort of changing preferences. Um, I wanted to ask you about a collection called Mr. and Mrs. Smith, simply because I've heard this from a number of advisors for the past couple months that this is something that they're sort of being very interested in. I'm curious. I mean,
Mhm.
what that collection sort of provides to you or your clients, and what other collections might pique interest along these same lines.
Yeah, like I would say like Mr. and Mrs. Smith is like a great example of like a refined collection of properties throughout the world. They're like boutique luxury properties that like have partnered with like World of Hyatt because they know that there's like value in something smaller. There's value in like a not a 1,000 room hotel. Um,
Okay.
so like Mr. and Mrs. Smith is like definitely like engage with advisors more because they see that as like a valuable source for expanding their traveler base as well. But then also, like, it's a great resource for advisors to find properties in really unique destinations. Like an example that I've seen, like, definitely resurging and kind of becoming more prevalent post post this big travel surge of like Europe is like under canvas. Um, it's like a upscale luxury glamping in the United States, all like outside of like some of the most beautiful national parks in the United States. And it's like part of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, but it's also just like a really great way to go and sell something like a national park trip that doesn't involve maybe like a guided tour that's very structured, where they can still find their solitude without a big coach bus. That's what we're seeing is like this like called even like national parks as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's incredible. I know national parks were trending during the pandemic when we were sort of locked, when people were locked
Yeah.
into where they were living. And it's nice to hear them coming back. It's nice. I think it seems like travelers are more adventurous now than ever. I know national park isn't necessarily a huge adventure, but it is a leap of faith for a lot of travelers who might be used to a more traditional way of traveling. So I'm
Right.
sort of
And
encouraged to
they're
hear that.
they're
Yeah.
they're busy. Like I mean, I think like a lot of people like approach things like domestic travel and like national parks as like, oh, that's like for the budget traveler, for the camper, the person that like wants to go and like bring their like four-wheeler with. Like that's not necessarily the case. Like I like last summer I had the opportunity to go to Montana and Wyoming and it was packed was like I went to Glacier National Park and Yellowstone, and it was packed with independent travelers, like from all different like senses of like household income. There were Globus buses, there were Adventures by Disney buses, like everywhere. And so to like say like it's not like a market that a travel advisor like to say that it's not worth a travel advisor going into, I think is like certainly foolish to say, because people want to go there and they're going there regardless of whether or not they book with a travel advisor. So right now is the time to like stay abreast on all that information somehow. It's a lot, and I
Yeah.
empathize with the travel advisor that's gotta go and collect all this information on top of managing their business and everything else. So
All right. All right, so Dolores, I see your question. I think I'll grab it in a second, but I guess just going off of that, Nolan, you mentioned Sweden, Norway. You mentioned some of these destinations. We a couple suppliers I know. What is it like, sort of, as an advisor who might not have been to these destinations? Like, if they haven't been to Sweden or Norway, and now they're getting clients asking about it, or if
mhm,
they see the White Lotus, they have clients loving that show, they're asking about
right.
Thailand now, and you've never been to Thailand. Like, what? I guess what is the mission advisors have in order to be able to educate themselves the best they can to serve their client and to strengthen that relationship? Like, what is that task and journey like?
I would say the first thing I'll say when it's a new destination and an advisor gets a request and they want to go to Thailand because they saw White Lotus. The first thing to just like do is to like take a breath and know that what they want is something that you can easily provide. And at the end of the day, when someone travels somewhere, it's like they want a flight, they want accommodations, they want like sightseeing, and that's something you guys can easily sift through. Like there's like plenty of suppliers to provide all that. So like it's not like it's going to be like a big like formula to calculate how to go and sell them like a trip to a place like Thailand. I think like reaching out to maybe like even like a DMC or a tourism board would be like a great place to start. Um, you could certainly ask ChatGPT, but I would ask the question like, where are you getting your information? Why do you recommend like those particular islands off the coast of Thailand? Or you could ask the question of like, where was White Lotus filmed? You know, like what hotel is that at? Because that was a big question when they filmed in like even that was the island of Maui. I think it may have been a Four Seasons. Don't quote me on that, but
I think they're all
that
Four Seasons. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So exactly. So it's like starting with the basics. You like with in terms of like what they're looking for. They may need like car like rental while they're there, or maybe transportation, or maybe they need something that's like fully privatized with a guide. Like these are all things you can get. So it's not like you should just turn away the request because you don't know it. Like learn about it. Like it's there's nothing wrong with saying to a traveler, hey, I haven't been there, but I've planned trips there, and I understand it from my client's point of view, and I look forward to going there soon. Like, there's nothing wrong with that at all. You don't need to have gone to every national park in the United States to be able to plan travel there. That's not necessary. You just need to be able to have all the resources to go and put
yeah.
an itinerary together and know that what they're looking for at the end of the day is probably a lot more basic than you think in terms of like what kind of travel accommodations they need.
Yeah, yeah. Don't get overwhelmed, I think, is great advice,
Right.
because I would
Yeah.
certainly get overwhelmed, I think. So I think that's it's good advice. So I'm going to grab this question from Dolores. And so, Nolan, Dolores is asking us about, she's marketing to many solo travelers. And I know, like, some of the destinations you mentioned seem to lend in that sort of solo travel direction. But any other destinations you think that are good for solo travelers, or you've heard from colleagues or members that might be good for solo
Hmm.
travelers, I guess?
I think I get what you said, other than cruises, because sometimes there's like a lot of cruise lines that offer like no single supplement. So like why wouldn't a solo traveler do that? But beyond cruising, I think like solo travelers like, and I'm not sure if you're referencing like that the solo travelers are senior citizens, but if they are a solo traveler, I'd ask like how much independence are they looking for? You know, like, are they looking for something guided, or are they looking for something completely independent? If they're looking for something guided, there are obviously escorted tour companies where you can fulfill that. Or if they want like that semi-guided approach, like I live just outside of Milwaukee. There are tour companies in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and they are happy to go and show people around Milwaukee if you just pay for the tour, and then you get that immersive experience no matter what. So destinations to look for, like, for a solo traveler. I mean, I think like the big appeal to a solo traveler is not, I would say like lodging accommodations not being super high, because they do recognize that they're paying it only like themselves. Like that, it only takes one person to go and pay the pay the room bill. But then beyond that, like just kind of noticing that, like, okay, you're there alone, right? What do you want to see and do? There, and they will. I'd say 99% of the time, they're going to give you like a list of things they want to do, or they're going to say, "Hey, half my days I'm looking for excursions. The other half I'm looking for just to kick it by a pool and just read." That
Yeah.
makes sense too.
All right. All right. Awesome. All right. And then we had somebody you mentioned Canadian Railway, maybe Alaska. So Dolores, that might be a good place to start if that sort of fits again the client
Certainly.
qualification side that Nolan mentioned. Yeah. All right. Cool. All right. So about 10 minutes left. Again, any questions? Drop them in the chat and we'll grab them. I'd love to get a couple more before we wrap up. But Nolan, the last thing I want to ask about, and sort of as a good segue because Dolores asked specifically not about cruise, but I want to ask you a little bit about cruise. Sort of maximizing cruise bookings. I know a lot of your clients are in the Midwest. You said that, or I hope that's the right term for the region too, because I know people talk about that a lot. But the Upper Midwest, the cruise, like for your clients to go on a cruise, that specifically means a whole package and not just a cruise booking. And I was hoping you tell us a little bit about sort of the philosophy that you or your members approach cruise bookings with.
Yeah. So for like travel advisors in the Midwest, I've definitely seen a trend, and I've worked with Mandy many years where we get the Midwest knowing that they're looking for value, and they're also looking for like a lot of inclusions, and they're looking for no gaps in things that they will need that aren't included in that first itinerary or proposal. So like an example of that is, this is just speaking for the Midwest, like we don't see an ocean here. So to go on a cruise, we got to fly somewhere or we have to drive somewhere. So with that, when someone will like request something like a cruise, like it's approached by travel advisors in this region that like, okay, they need to fly there. Maybe they want a pre-night. I should ask that question right away as I'm providing all these quotes to them. Or like even like fulfilling all the like the not necessarily the sea days, but the days at port. Because like a lot of those like value driven clients, they're looking for that kind of stuff. They're looking for like the big picture, because like they may find like a great balcony cabin on an itinerary that they really like and it's at a great price, but air could be astronomical, and as soon as you provide them the price for air, they go, all right, this isn't appealing anymore. Maybe I need to look at a different destination, or something like that. So that's kind of how we see it here, is like making sure that like you're providing your clients that full scope of what they need for an experience like a cruise. Just seeing a bunch of the comments come through. Educating clients on river cruises versus ocean cruising, definitely. That's huge. Like, and like I'm going on a river cruise in 2 weeks with Avalon, and um, never been before, but there's excursions every day, so that takes a lot of that like thought out of it. But like you said, Lisa, in the chat, that it makes sense to like educate them and know that like when you're planning something like an ocean cruise, you have days at port, and there is nothing on the itinerary. So it's time to make the itinerary, and it's time for like the advisor to offer these suggestions and make sure that it's all ready to go in one cohesive itinerary. And you could just take all these details that you're collecting for all these quotes for excursions, for air, for cruise, give it over to like say ChatGPT and say, hey, put this together in a nice email so it doesn't sound so broken up. That would be a great way to start to like kind of bring that comprehensive like full approach to an itinerary for a cruise, for sure.
So you mentioned sort of the big picture, Nolan, but I guess for ocean cruises, like
Mhm.
your clients specifically need the big picture because it's not as simple as driving to a port and getting on board and finding a parking spot and getting on board.
Right.
I like so when you're talking to a client or when your members are talking to a client, is that something that's sort of required from step one? Like you're when they're asking for a bottom line cost or a bottom line proposal, like you include all that upfront, like all the transfers, the pre and post if it's required, transportation, things like that. That's something that's sort of standard for you guys.
Yeah, I would say like certainly like the air piece. I see that as like a given. And whether or not you like get into the nitty gritty about like, hey, here's this itinerary from Chicago to Miami, like there's like endless flights. You don't know necessarily what kind of like airline they want to fly with and things like that. But giving them a snapshot and saying like, hey, round trip air for around when this cruise is going is approximately X price. Maybe don't get into the details, but when they see that itinerary for the cruise and they see that cost, they'll then see like, okay, there's airfare that I need to factor in. And like
Okay.
transfers, I think would be a little different just because I guess like a lot of these US ports, like sometimes it's convenient, sometimes it's not. Like Uber, like ride sharing apps have become like super popular and rightfully so, they're convenient, you know. So that you see like a little bit less, maybe depending on like maybe you have a group traveling and transfers that you can book ahead of time are much easier to book, then that makes a lot of sense. But maybe two people traveling to Miami, like they know how easy it is to leave an airport, take an Uber that's 20 minutes away. It's fair to assume that they know what's going on with that. But it's good to advise them of it.
Yeah, I do hope an Uber does something with, or Uber or Lyft does something with the trade at some point. I don't know if that's
Right.
their jam, but I like you're seeing the videos now of driverless cars. I guess Uber has a partnership with Waymo, and there's driverless cars waiting for people at airports in Austin and Miami, and it just seems like it's a crazy future that we're going into. But it seems like that's going to
Right.
be the new standard mode of transportation. I know a lot of clients want that personalized service. We're talking about personalization today, but it does seem like the ease of rideshare is something advisors, if they haven't realized it yet, they need to come to a full
Right.
realization about.
And that's like one less thing an advisor needs to calculate, you know, like that's like there's other things that an advisor can like focus on, like such as the air piece, or like I like for example, like if the cruise line doesn't pay commission on a pre and post hotel, maybe you just simply don't book that with them because you're in this business for a reason and you're running a business, and like ALG Vacations is here, but also they're big for pre and post cruising. So and for a reason, because they pay travel advisors like that's why. So making sure that your time invested into all these itineraries like is worth your time, not just beyond like charging a planning fee or anything like that, but making sure that what you're selling them, you're making something off of, because that just shows that the supplier values the travel advisor's business. So
Yeah, I guess that was sort of the question I want to wrap up on is that you want your philosophy is you want to make your commission, or you want to make commission, you want to be able to get paid what the work you're putting in for, and just finding the right suppliers who are going to be able to provide you with some sort of commission or some sort of reward for booking and doing the work
definitely.
seems to be an important thing.
I I mean, you think of these like Alaska itineraries where they're in all these ports and they're buying an excursion. It's going to happen. So like if and a lot of clients will expect a travel advisor to educate them on the excursion options. So the last thing you're gonna want to do is like spend the time to educate them on excursions that you're not making any money on. So a company like that's really great to work with in terms of like just cruising is like Compass Tours. We see advisors using them quite a bit. Their headquarters is like in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, actually. But you can like plug in the cruise ship, the itinerary, and then it gives you all these like tailored excursions for that itinerary. Or they do like custom excursions, which that like even adds like another step onto the personalization. Like maybe you have a group of people traveling on a cruise and they're looking for a private excursion. Well, that's something you definitely want like to have like proper care with. So working with a company that does provide that and pays you commission, please
Yeah.
use a company that does that. So
All right, so we're not out of time. We have a couple minutes, so if anyone has a question. But Nolan, like we've been through a lot today. We mentioned personalization using ChatGPT. We talked a little bit about the destinations, what are trending, things like that, and then sort of we ended up on cruise. I wanted to make sure, is there anything else you wanted to add to the discussion, or any other points or any other trends that you think advisors should be aware of? Sort of, I know we're heading into the meat of 2025, and I know things are changing pretty quickly. But anything you think is important to call out?
um I for those new sellers to cruising, it's I'll just say it's not that complex. It can seem like a lot
Okay.
because not all the details are necessarily on the cruise line's website. So, but like finding all that information, like connecting with like a sales rep from the cruise line, or connecting with like your host network for information like that, about like a particular cruise line, I think is really important for those that maybe have never sold a cruise before. Um, That would be pretty important. Like, our gratuities are included. How does dining work? Is it completely open? What's this whole like main dining situation? How does that all work out if you have all these specialty restaurants? So connecting with those like cruise suppliers or maybe like other advisors at your office or within a host network, I think that would be a great place to start for any advisors new to cruising, because it can seem like a lot at first. It could seem more complex than maybe a trip to Thailand because someone watched White Lotus. But it isn't that complicated. Cruising is something travel advisors can easily solve. They just need like a handful of details about each cruise line. So that was just
Yeah.
one final point I definitely want to make about that.
Yeah, don't get overwhelmed whether it's a cruise line that you haven't booked before, or if you're a new seller in the cruise line, or you mentioned before not getting overwhelmed when you get a question about a destination you maybe haven't been to before. It
Right.
seems like those suppliers are ready to help, ready and more than willing to help. Like I know we have Mandy still with us, and I know ALG Vacations sort of has that philosophy, but suppliers want to be your partner. It seems like the good ones want to be your partner, and you shouldn't be afraid to reach out to them for assistance.
Definitely.
All right, all right. All right, so let me bring
Being a
Mandy back
multi-year
in. I want to say thank you to Nolan for joining us today. Again, it was really nice to talk to you. I think we got a lot done in a short amount of time, so I really appreciate that. And thank you to Mandy and ALG Vacations. We always love working with you, and it was nice to have you back here again with us.
Right.
All right, all
Definitely.
right. So
Thank you, Daniel.
all right, thank you. We'll see everyone back here in a couple weeks. Again, I see some questions. If you want to rewatch the session, we'll have it up later today. We'll shoot an email out with a recording too if you want to catch it. But hope to see everyone back here in 2 weeks. Other than that, I hope everyone stays safe and healthy, and we'll see you all soon.
Bye.